today I want to challenge us because I don't think necessarily that the workers are few in the same way that we think they are, which is just by, sheer number of people trying. I think the workers are few because we're trying in ways that are unfruitful. We're trying in ways that a lot of times is for ourselves. And selfishly we make decisions that I think Christ is trying to call us to look at things in a different way. And when we look at them in a different way, we can see that we are working for His will to build the kingdom, to reap the harvest that He has put right in front of us instead of for ourselves. And I think a lot of times we get caught up in thinking about us. I want to set the stage. We're going to be in Luke chapter 5. And in Luke chapter 5, Jesus is speaking to a crowd. And they're starting to crowd around Him. And in speaking to them, and as they start to gather, He looks at it and He sees two empty boats. One of them that belonged to Simon, and the fishermen had left them there, and they're cleaning their nets. And so Jesus gets into the boat, and He asks Simon to just kind of scoot over towards the shore, and He sits down in the boat, and He starts to teach to the people. When He's done teaching with the people, He does something that I know just blew Simon's mind, and not in the best of ways, I don't think. He said, "Hey, let's go out to the deep water, and let's cast some nets and fish." So in order to set the stage and for you to know why this is weird, back in the day of the times of Jesus, when they would go out fishing, they would do it at night. The fish would go into the deep during the day, and at nighttime they would come up. And when they came up, they would come up to feed, and with the kind of nets they used, they would be able to catch them. The nets wouldn't go that deep, and so they had to wait for them to come up. And so the fishermen would spend all night trying to catch fish. Some of us know sometimes you don't catch fish. Don told me it wasn't a lot of fishing to be caught this time around, but you know what they do? They go out and they do what they do. They have a cycle, they have a pattern, because that's how they have been taught to do it. They've been taught to do it one way, they do it that way all the time, and when you do it that way, you get the best that you can. So Jesus knows this in them. He knows this in Simon. So in the middle of the day, they had just finished washing their nets. They didn't catch anything. And Jesus says, "Hey, let's go out a little deeper. I want to put some nets out. Let's go catch some fish." My response to that, in what Jesus is asking them, is, "Hey, let's try something different. Let's try something new. Let's look at some different ways to do things." But if I was Simon, I would look at Jesus and say, "Stick to being a carpenter." Or, "You're really good at teaching. These people like to listen to you. Why don't you keep just speaking? Do what you know. Leave the fishing to us. That's what we know." But Simon says some things that are a little different, and this is really interesting. And this is why I said I wanted to be honest with you. I'm going to talk about kind of these words that Simon says and his approach to hearing Jesus calling him to do something that seems absurd to him, but he humbles himself and is willing to do it for a reason. So here's what happened. Simon answered, "Master, we have worked hard all night and haven't caught anything." And this is what we need to kind of look at. "But because you say so, I will let down my nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish, their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the boat to come and to help them. And they came and they filled both boats so much that they began to sink. I don't think when Simon said, "Jesus, because you say so, I want to humbly listen to you," I think in his head, he might have been like, "I can't wait to say, told you so. You can't do this during the day. What do you think we've been doing all of our lives? This is our business." Take that in. This is where we're at. But Jesus knows it's in them, right? And he blows their mind with something so much better than they could ever imagine. They had just spent all night. And all night is from the moment that sun went down to the moment the sun's coming up. They were out on that boat and they were fishing. Throwing the nets in, pulling them up, nothing. Throwing them in, pulling them up, nothing. Well, you live to fish another day. They come home, let's just go back, clean the nets, get some breakfast. I hear this Jesus guy is going to be around, maybe we'll listen, right? Simon knew who Jesus was and he had been listening to, and he says, "Because you say so." So I want to try to take it a different way. Humbly saying, "I know what is best, and I know how to catch fish the best way, but because you have asked me to do it in this way, I'm going to come and submit to you and do it your way. Regardless of how I feel about it, regardless of what the outcome is going to be, because I trust you, know what you are about, I want to do your business, so I will go out there with you, and I will do as you are asking me to do. I don't know how many opportunities that we have thrown away because we have felt that whatever opportunity God has put towards us was not, it was beneath us, maybe. Our pride gets in the way. It was uncomfortable, so we said somebody else who's more comfortable with that will do it. It's out of my skill set. We use that excuse. We see this in the Bible. Moses was great at making excuses. Gideon was great at saying, show me this first, God. Show me this first, God. I'll trust you after you show me these things. Show me all these things first, and then I'll do it. There's very few who said, yes, I believe what you are telling me to do. I want to do it. The reward is boats full. So heavy. So many fish that they start to sink. Here's the deal. This is in the beginning of Jesus' ministry. He's going out and teaching. He hasn't even picked his disciples yet. This is the first time. And he goes out and he chooses them. Like Jesus hand-picks who he wants, where he wants them to be, what they're going to do, and he chooses them. But he didn't choose them saying, you have to do this. You have to follow me. If you don't follow me, I will drown you out here in the middle of this lake. He doesn't do it. But he gives them this, and this is so great. In God choosing us, when he chose Peter, he said, when Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man. I get who you are, because there's no way we were supposed to be catching fish doing it this way. That just never happens. For he and all of his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John and sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. And they said to Simon, then Jesus said to Simon, don't be afraid, from now on you will fish for people. Check this out. They pulled their boats in and they left everything and followed him. Here's a moment. Not only was this a weird thing for Simon to go out and do and to be challenged and do something different, he may have thought he was never going to be anything but a fisherman. He may have thought his whole life was going to be living on a boat, doing what his family's always done. This is the business. We're going to do it, and this is how I operate. Jesus changes his worldview in two different ways. One, I'm going to show you what you're doing and how to do it better, even though you've done this your whole life. And two, I'm going to show you that you were meant to do so much more than just catch fish. I want you to come with me, and you're going to catch people. I want you to be a fisher of men, and I want your nets to be so full that they are just breaking at the seams. But I'm going to challenge you to do some things that are out of your comfort zone. There's a similar story to this for Simon later. After Jesus has died, he's come back and he's visited his disciples a couple of different times. One time, in their morning, they decided to do what they know, because usually that's what we do in our morning. Let's just keep busy. Let's get this stuff off of our minds. So they go out and they go fishing. Same thing happens. They're fishing all night. In the morning, some guy, hey buddy, did you catch any fish? And they're like, no. Why don't you try putting it on the other side? I didn't think about that. You got to know they were putting the nets on both sides, right? They put it on the other side, they pull up all this fish, and immediately they know, hey, that guy's Jesus. Simon jumps out of the boat, starts swimming, they start towing this big haul in. Jesus challenges them, try it again, but try it different. Try it my way. See it through my lenses. And they challenge him after that. See, in this one they said, come and follow me, I'm going to make you fishers of men. And they got up and they left. Do you know the challenge after that for Jesus to Peter? Do you love me, Peter? You caught all this stuff. You love me? Feed my fish. Take care of my people. Feed them. Do you love me? And he goes back and they battle back and forth. Do you love me? Do these things. God chose him for a purpose. To be a fisher of men. Use the talents that you have gained along the way in your career and now change things up. Find ways to choose me in what you're doing. Here's some of the, we read this earlier. This is how we know that God chose us. In John chapter 15, verse 6, he says, You did not choose me, I chose you, and I appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit. Fruit that will last. I chose you. I didn't choose you to sit around and do nothing. I didn't choose you to sit there and say, I'll only do it my way. I didn't choose you to sit in chairs and be comfortable. I didn't choose you to look at a Bible and memorize all the verses but not know how to put it into practice. I didn't choose you to only minister to people who already know the gospel. I chose you to go out and catch some fish. Some people who are longing to be found. And the best example of how this works out in the Bible is Paul. And Paul tells us this in 1 Corinthians, and this is, if this doesn't get you a little bit, it should. Though I am free and belong to no one, I have made myself a slave to everyone, to win as many as possible. To the Jews I became like a Jew, to win the Jews. To those under the law I became like one under the law, though I myself am not under the law, so as to win those under the law. To those not having the law I became like one not having the law, though I am not free from God's law, but am under Christ's law, so as to win those not having the law. To the weak I became weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means, I might save some. I do this for the sake of the gospel, that I may share in its blessings. How many of you have actually exhausted all means possible, or all possible means, so that some may be won for the gospel? We're challenged to do things differently. Now, I don't want to embarrass anybody, but I will, just for a second. I'm apologizing ahead of time. They're bigger than I am, so don't take that. I'm going to have Tim come up here with me for a second. I didn't pass this by him for approval, so beat me up later, it's okay. Sometimes God calls us to do things differently than we've ever expected to do them. If you asked me a year ago, if you asked me 6 months ago if I would be going out and spreading the gospel with Tim, in the places we're doing it, I would say, you're out of your mind. No way. Tim and I have been blessed the last few months. We get to go out into areas where people don't care so much to visit. And we get to speak to some kids who people have kind of put on the shelves because it's a waste of their time. I will say this after doing it, and I posted a little bit about this on our social media, that I feel like God has been calling me through the vessel of Tim to cast my net on another side. I spent my whole life growing up in neighborhoods that I couldn't wait to get out of. Serious. I was like, get me out of here. Went to school in Southern California. Now finding myself literally at the schools that I went to, in the neighborhoods I grew up in, with the kids that I knew because they were just like my friends, who have been pushed to the side saying that they will never do anything with their lives. If they can't sling drugs or be in a gang or play basketball or football, they will never make anything of their life. And Tim and I, through some organizations that he's found and just some opportunity that come up through our shoe ministry and different things, we've had opportunities to sit with kids from the ghetto that don't have parents like you all had parents, that don't have friends like you all had friends, that didn't have opportunity to come out of it to find something new. And I felt, and I know that he's felt this way too, that through God working something, he said, why don't you cast your nets to the other side? There is a harvest that is ready to be put into your nets. Cast those nets. Okay. I appreciate it. I didn't have to bring him up. But sometimes people are working really hard behind the scenes, and you all need to know that they are doing awesome. He's doing awesome work. The kids look up to Tim. Amen. Literally, they do. But even more importantly, he knows their story because he's gone through it. I grew up in the same thing. I was lucky to have a mom that helped me in directions to be more positive in sports and in church. And we actually get to share a message about Christ. Can you believe it? In schools, we get to say, if we didn't find Christ, we'd be growing up and doing all these other things. Or some of us said, I've done all these things. Luckily, I found Christ, so I didn't have to continue to be locked up or have a bad family life or not be a good dad. We get to say, man, because of our relationship with Christ, we can share this because it's about us. And they told us it was okay, so we haven't burned any bridges with schools yet. But we get to share this with groups of kids. And it seems like now, multiple times a week, or at least once a week with some kids, that there's something better for you. There's a hope for you. Do you know what a lot of us would do, though, if you had to go into that environment all the time? Say, somebody else could do it. Not in my skill set. You know, that's fine. Paul said, I became all things so that some may be one. So, hey, soccer moms, be a soccer mom to others, but do it to win them for the gospel. Hey, bingo players at some around, be that for them. Be it in a way that is godly and show them the gospel. There's an endless opportunity for you to be who you are, but to do it not for yourself, but to do it for Christ. We say that he is worth dying for, and we say that all of these things, but have we even lived for him yet? Have we chosen him? Have we even decided that he is worth me sacrificing some of myself so that others may be one? We spend so much time deciding what is okay for me to do for the gospel and what is not okay. And you know what the worst part of it is? And I'm guilty of this. We decide what's okay for other people to do for Christ and what's not okay. And we look at them and say, sorry, you can't do that. Somewhere in Second Opinions, verse 2, I quote Gavin, and he says, you can't do that? No. You can't, guys, you can't do that. That's not in the Bible, by the way, for those. By all means, I want to do things by all means that I have. Financially, I need to be better at using my means to serve God. Physically, I need to be better at serving God with my health while I have it. Emotionally, I may be at a different place that I can help other people emotionally with my time, my efforts to serve God. I don't want to be the one that says, Christ, I know my job and I do it quite well. Can you please stay out of my business? I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that says, Jesus, because you have told me so, I will. Because you have told me to go out and do something that seems so ridiculous, it must be from you. I want to do it. I want to go to the deep waters. I want to put my nets down. I want to sit there with you. And I want to pull this net in. And I want it to be so heavy that I need my friends who are with me to help me pull in this net. And I want it to be so full that we can rejoice together because heaven is rejoicing, even if it was just one fish. Jesus talks about all these different things. One sheep leaves. Shepherd leaves the 99, goes and finds that one, comes back, celebrates like heaven will when one sinner rejoices. It doesn't have to be this giant catch, but he just wants you to use what you got, that maybe that one gets found. The coin that's lost, sweep the rugs, find it, celebrate. I said it was going to be a little honest. I don't think we do it. I don't think I've done it. And if I do, I don't do it in the way in which I know God has completely called me to do it. So, how do we do it? How do we exhaust all these options? I told Tim when we started doing this, any time that any of these schools or any of these people ask me, can you come and talk to these kids? If I am in town and I am not with somebody doing some other work, I will say yes. As inconvenient as it can be, I will say yes. In that moment, we may be the only ones that they have. In that moment, there might be a seed that's planted that no other time would it be planted. So we went out to what used to be called Gady, and now is Rosa Parks, the school I was supposed to go to. We went out to Fern Bacon, where I did go. We were told that we're going to be going to Burbank, where I went. It doesn't mean that I'm neglecting all of our Elk Grove side. Trust me, when they've asked me to come, we go. If we can get some of these young people to know who Christ is now, how much easier will it be for us to continue to grow them in their faith than to get them when it may be too late. I hope that there's something for you. It doesn't have to be this. Like I said, maybe, not everybody can go to a school in the middle of the day. What are you doing at work with the people who are around you? What are you doing with your kids and your grandkids? Are you being all things to the people in your life? Maybe you habitual Starbucks people, when you're sitting there waiting in line, that long line that we are so mad about, that we talked about in class, use it. It's an opportunity. Be blessed and be a blessing to people. I want to be, this is our challenge, I want to be, and I hope you do too, whatever I can be, however I can be, so that some, even one, maybe one for the gospel, that one person may be added to the kingdom, in the book of life, because the Spirit worked through me at a day where I didn't think He would, and somebody was affected by it. And I want to give him the glory through it. I don't want it to be, look how many people, or look how many fish are in my net. They didn't even say that. They were blown away, and you know what they did? The first thing they did, it wasn't like, wow, that worked. We're going to do this every day. They fell at the feet of Christ and said, forgive me, I'm a sinful person. You are God, and I am not. You used me to do something this great, and I don't even deserve any of that. Give God the glory for the things that he's called us to do. And here's the most important thing I want you to get. In the harvest of all of these people, when you look at Paul, and you look at even just when they went out and caught fish, they didn't do anything to bring those fish to them. They didn't plant any seeds to see things grow. Christ put them in front of a harvest that he had already planned for them. And all he said was, cast your nets. My goodness. When you leave here, if you are the ones that like to go to Cassidy's, or I don't know, what are the restaurant stage, cast your net while you're there. Catch more than a chicken fried steak. You can do something. I promise. The work seems so much harder than it is. Just go out into the deep waters where you don't expect you're going to get anything. Let God lead you to where you need to be. Throw your nets out. Pull them in. And when you come back and you're just amazed at what God did, leave all your junk. All of that world that has been tying you down, get up and just start following him. It's so cool how Jesus makes it simple for us. And we just make it so difficult to see him because we've set up our junk in the way. If I could ask you for anything today, be open to what Christ is doing in your life. Be open to it. Let it sit and just say, wow, thank you for this opportunity. Bruce read in the communion this morning about how just at the right time Christ came for us. And it wasn't just for us in here who are saved. Just at the right time Christ came for everyone. Let's let them know about it. Let's go to God and pray. Dear Father, Lord, you're an amazing and awesome God, and I can't thank you enough for being patient with me. That in times where I may have chosen myself over you, you still found something in me to still do your will. And I pray now, I just let go of more and more of me and add more and more of you in my life every day. In the way that I'm a husband, in the way that I'm a father, the way in which I do my job, the way in which I evangelize to people. God, I just pray that each step, it could be less of me and more of you. And when I stumble and when I get caught up in myself again, I ask for your forgiveness. And I pray that you help me through it to find you even at a deeper level. And God, I pray for all of us here, as a help of the shepherding of these sheep, I pray that I'm leading them where your word is calling me to speak. And I pray that their hearts are leading them to following your word. That your kingdom may be full because of the lives that we live in glorifying you as living sacrifices. So God, I pray over this group, over this church, over the people that you have put in their lives, that we can start a change in this world, a change of love and compassion and forgiveness and mercy. And ultimately, God, a change in the way people accept you. Waters that have been not used for a long time, God, I would love to see people baptized in your waters and be cleansed of their sins because they're choosing you, because of maybe a seed that you've planted in them through us. Even if it's just one, I just appreciate your love for us. And God, I pray that as we leave here, that you help us to not have regrets in life by things that we didn't do, but start doing the things that you've called us to do. And that your Spirit will do the work. We thank you for this. We pray all these things in your Son's name. Amen.